On today's show, we have on Coach Eric Peterson, head baseball coach at Benedictine College, and we're talking about trust, love, communication, and some baseball.
Welcome to another episode of the Baseball Awakening Podcast, where we dive into the raw, unfiltered, unsexy side of player development. Get ready for some knowledge bombs with your host, Geoff Rottmayer.
Welcome to the Baseball Awakening Podcast. I'm Geoff Rottmayer. Today we're sitting down with Coach Eric Peterson, the second-year head baseball coach at Benedictine College. Coach, how are you, sir?
I'm great, big time. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Coach. Thanks. I appreciate your time. We're going to talk some baseball, some coaching, and then wherever else this conversation takes us. So let's just kind of start with, let's understand your coaching career, where it started and how you got into coaching, as well as some of the coaches that you learned from along the ways.
Okay, great. Well, I guess I'll start with where I played and then my coaching stops. The most influential person that I've had, other than my dad and my uncles, some of my family members, but the most influential person that I've had in my baseball life is Rich Price at the University of Kansas. And when he came in 2002, I was a part of his first recruiting class in there. So I had actually signed with the former coach, and then the luck of baseball had it. I get to meet my mentor and a guy that guided me through a lot of different things in Coach Price and Skip at KU. And then my father ended up getting pretty sick, and I transferred to Johnson County Community College up in Overland Park, Kansas, and played a semester there, and then eventually found myself at Pittsburgh State down in southeast Kansas, and got my master's degree there, started my coaching there, and then went to Fort Scott Community College under John Hill. John Hill's still there. He's rocking and rolling, doing a great job down there. And spent 2 years there, went to Niagara University, spent 2 years there. Came back home for a year, was the director of baseball operations at the University of Kansas. Got back on the field with Jay Alexander up at Eastern Michigan. Spent 4 years at Drury University under Scott Nasby. And then I'm in my second year as the head coach of Benedictine College up in Atchison. So long run, long story, a lot of different places, but some great stops along the way, and I've certainly learned a lot from a lot of different people, but probably the most influential will have to be Coach Price.
Awesome. I love hearing about a path like that, because you do learn different things from different people, which shape who you become as a coach. Coach, before we get into the coaching side of things, the director of operation position that you did, this kind of sheds a light on a different side of things. So can you kind of talk about this position and how maybe it helped you on the coaching side?
Well, it completely flipped my vision of what exactly a head coach does. It's really more directed off the field, behind the scenes stuff. If we just kind of revert back into my grad school days at Pitt State, my master's degree is in game day management. So I have a background in what I call the ugly parts of the game, where nobody sees and unless you screw it up, right? So that's part of it that I really find intriguing. So when Skip asked me to come back and be his ops guy, it was really a position that they hadn't really had. So he allowed me to run with it and just, see what we were going to do. And, they were struggling with some camp numbers and getting their camps reestablished. So that was one of my tasks is to get the camps back and to get them to the point where they were stable again. So Skip really entrusted me in doing that. but really it was the behind the scenes stuff. It was the fundraising stuff, the player development stuff. It really opened my eyes to what a head coach is supposed to do, where I hadn't seen that yet. So I just keep going back to it. He's been the most influential person in my professional life, where he's really taught me and gave me an opportunity to learn how to do the behind the scenes stuff, especially at a Power 5 level, which, at Benedictine, we're obviously not Power 5, we're not Division 1, but we're trying to do our best to look like it and act like it.
Nice. Very cool. So I know everybody's path is different in how things play out, but do you think that one who wants to get into coaching should maybe experience the director of operations position?
Yeah, that's hard. That's hard to answer. It's hard to say, follow that path, because I think I look back on it and I didn't know what path I was going. I was just going at that point. So, I had the D1 dream, like most guys do, that they want to work for that. And to be honest, I got an opportunity. I went to Niagara University, and I was very, very fortunate to have that opportunity and learned a lot up there. To say that I wish I would have done things differently, or you should do things differently, I don't know that I'm here today and what I'm doing today without going along that path. It's a little cliche-ish, but I think that the guys that just work hard and get after it, good things happen to them. I believe in baseball gods, and they pay you back, man, and they pay you back tenfold whatever you give the game. So I think the path is different for everybody, like you're talking about. I think the first step, though, is you got to get your master's degree, especially in this day and age. Most head coaches, the requirement is to have a master's degree. Most full-time paid coaches at the college level need to have a master's degree now. So that's I have an assistant here at Benedictine and 2 GAs that I just impress upon them. Get your education, because that's the one thing that nobody can take away from you. Whether this career path works or not, or which direction it takes you, at least you got that piece of paper saying that you got a higher education type of degree.
Very cool. Very cool. All right, so let's jump into the coaching side.
Okay.
Let's talk about your approach and your style and why you think it works for you.
Well, it works here at Benedictine because of our student athletes, because of our players, because they bought into it. If you would have asked me what my style was 10 years ago, it's completely different.
Yeah.
If you would have asked me 14 years ago, it's completely different. I think that we constantly have to check ourselves and see what we're doing and making sure that it works for our current players and our current roster, which is going to change next year. So I think that we kind of have to have a chameleon approach to that, where we can adjust to our players and what the needs of our players are. But ultimately, it boils down to TLC for us. That's trust, that's love, and that's communication. And if we can do those 3 things at a high level, we could do some great things together. And that goes well beyond just the playing field. We want it to bleed into what we do academically, in our social lives, in our personal lives. We want it to really affect everything that we do, because we feel like that's something that lasts longer than 4 years. It's more about what happens 40 years, down the line. Like, what are we doing with our wife, or our children, our families, and our future bosses? And if we can just instill the TLC mindset, the trust, the love, the communication mindset, and understand that it's an evolving, it's a real life thing. We're dealing with people every day. We just feel like that's a huge part of it. And I guess if I'm going to hang my hat on one thing, I'm going to hang my hat on my players, and our coaching staff and our program, and really their willingness to buy into the TLC mindset and learn to trust each other, love each other, and communicate with each other.
Awesome. And I'm a follower of yours on Twitter, and I have been for some time. And I could sense this. You know, you live this trust, love, and communicate. So let's kind of get a deeper dive into the TLC, starting with trust. You know, we all know what trust is, but what does trust mean to you?
Everything. I, you know, it I guess it has to, and it has to start with that, because I don't think you can love without trust. And if you try to, it's fake at that point. It's just eyewash, and you're trying to get people to do things that they don't want to do, and they don't feel like you love them, So, and so trust is a big thing, and like I said, it's an evolving thing. It's a real live thing, and you got to work on it every day, and you got to really show your players, your people that are around you, that what you say, what you do, your actions. We talk about all the time. Perception is reality. What people see is what they believe, and we try to just emulate that, and really. We talk about being vulnerable all the time, and if I can show as the head coach that I can be vulnerable, so are our players, so are our assistant coaches, and I think that creates a lot of trust within the group that we can come to each other, we can rely on each other, and like I said, it's an evolving thing, but it's something we try to work on every day.
Yeah, no, that's great. So let's say that the trust is it's between you and the coaches, you and the players, and the players and the players. And if you've been around long enough, you can sense things that are going on in your program, or at least you should be able to.
Yep.
So when a trust issue pops up or develops, how do you get a handle of that and reel it back in?
Well, we have a leadership group called our battalion leaders, and they're entrusted. They go through a whole process, an interview process, where the coaching staff sits down with them, every guy that we pick to be one of our leaders, and essentially they're our culture. We feel like our culture is built from within, and our battalion leaders are responsible for a lot of the things that happen within our program, but they're also responsible to what we call Protect Rocky. And Rocky's our mascot. It's a weird looking little bird. But it's something bigger. Our culture is something bigger than just this team. It's the future Ravens. It's our current Ravens. It's our alumni Ravens. And our guys understand that, and so they want to protect it. And part of that is they believe in the TLC model, obviously, and we're learning to develop that. But if there is an issue, they know that they can handle it. They know that they're going to have the support of their coaching staff, of their head coach, and even if they don't handle it right, we'll teach them. And it'll be more of a lesson than a punishment, right? Like we don't really believe in that. We want to teach guys how to lead, and so our battalion leaders, in a nutshell, they are responsible for 4 to 5 guys in their battalions, and so if there's issues, it's essentially handled within, and then if it needs to go up the ladder, it can, and they know that the open door policy, the door is actually open, and they have a line of communication to anybody, but especially me, that they feel comfortable coming to me with anything.
Awesome. So you said there was the interviewing process to become one of the battalion leaders.
Yeah.
What does that entail? What does that interview process look like?
Yeah. So what happens is July 1st, there's a battalion leader packet that gets sent out to the entire team. And then anybody that wants to be a battalion leader has 30 days from that point to return the questionnaire, which is just part of the application process. It's typically the first time that some of our guys have ever filled out an application or a questionnaire. So it takes them some time. So that's why we give them 30 days. Once we get all the applications in, we believe that a guy if they've turned in an application, they get an interview. It's the first step for us that really says, okay, this guy wants to be a leader on our team, or at least has the want to, right? The mindset to become a leader. So we sit down as a coaching staff and we ask the guys that are going to interview to dress like they're going for a job interview. So suit and tie, the dress to the nines, and they essentially sit in front of us. And what we do is we ask them the same questions that are on the questionnaire, on the application process, and we want to see how they respond in a stressful situation, because a lot of the times this is the first time they've ever interviewed for anything. So it goes back to how are we preparing our guys in the 4 and the 40 process. So the 4 years that we get them, what are we doing daily? What are we doing with them to prepare them for the 40 years after we have them, right? So this boils down to we're getting them in an interview process. We're giving them experience of going through this. So we sit down and we interview them. We ask them the same questions, like I said, and see how they respond in a stressful situation, what their answers are. We kind of let the conversation go from there, and just kind of have a life of its own. But we really find out who our leaders are when we need them, because it's pretty easy to lead when the sun's out and the rainbows are out and everything's going great. But what happens when you're in a stressful situation? What happens when, it's not easy, it's not tough? We want to figure out who those guys are and try to figure out those guys very early in the process.
Yeah, cool. That's awesome. So let's say you get 10 kids that apply to be a battalion leader, and say only 4 gets the role. What's the conversation like among the coaches that are picking out the best 4 guys?
Yeah, so we don't have a set number, right, of battalion leaders that we're getting each year, because I don't want to have an arbitrary number. So say we have 16 guys apply. I don't want to say, okay, we need 10. There may not be 10 battalion leaders in that 16 that we feel like are going to lead that group. I revert back to something I said earlier, like every team is going to be completely different every year. The needs of that team are going to be different. And so we got to have leaders that fit what we think the needs are of that team, if that makes sense. So we don't want to say, okay, got to have 10. Yeah. There may not be 10, or there may be 15, right? So, but the one thing that we try really, really hard to do, to make sure that we do, is have enough battalion leaders that their battalions are between 4 and 5 guys. It is much easier to lead a small group of guys than a bigger group of guys. So we try to put them in a position where they'll be successful in leading their group. And so we try to put our battalion leaders within 4 or 5 guys. So that would make, 8 to 10 to 11 battalion leaders on any given year.
Very cool. So, part of the process of being a leader is, you develop something. Leadership is something that you develop. So how does that process go? Because somewhere along the way, when you're going through the development as a leader, you mess up. You say things and do things that you regret. Yep. So how does one handle that, all that?
We encourage it, and it's the same way as we play, right? We encourage our guys to fail. because that means they're trying, and we're not going to handle things right, and there's going to be problems, and but we encourage our battalion leaders to try to solve those problems on their own. That's why we feel like they are our leaders. And we're gonna, we're obviously gonna support them and teach them different things. We have a battalion leader Thursday Thoughts text message group that we just bounce ideas off of each other, and it's me and the 8 battalion leaders that we have this year. And we just communicate with each other about ideas and thoughts and concerns every Thursday. We spend like an hour and a half. It could be 2 hours, but it just really, what it does is it bounces ideas off of each other. Our leaders are talking amongst each other. I really encourage them to push the limits of thought. I think that sometimes we can get just mindless in this thing, and we just kind of go day by day, and we don't really push what we can actually do and how we can actually influence our groups and the people that are around us. So, yeah, man, our guys are going to make mistakes, and I want them to make mistakes. That's the best time to learn. And really, like, if they make mistakes, I learn off of it too.
Sure.
And our coaching staff learns off of it too, and we can build a closer team. I think it all boils down to TLC, man. If we can trust and we can love and we can communicate, even when we fail, especially when we fail, man, this is going to be a good team. This is going to be a good group of guys. This is going to be a group that can keep developing and evolving as just people, but as a team as well.
Awesome. And so with all that, you can tell that communication, the communication part, it's huge with you, and that's super important. So can you talk about that a little bit? Did you develop the skill, or is this something that you kind of had, or what do you do to work and improve the communication skills that you have? With also getting, the kids to open up and speak their mind, especially your battalion leaders, encouraging them to speak up on things, even if they're scary or goes against what you think or said. How do you work on all that?
I think the one thing that I guess I have a challenge at, and we're never going to be great at, right? We're always going to be continued to work at being great at it.
Sure.
But we've got to break this mold that players can't approach coaches.
Yeah.
Where with ideas or disagreements or have a conversation, because we have a rather large roster. Those guys are seeing different things than we're seeing. If we're not allowing them to have a voice, then are we really building something? Are we really getting better every day? I seriously doubt it. And look, I've made plenty of mistakes. I'm a second-year head coach. I've made plenty of mistakes.
Sure.
I've got no problem hearing about it. I'd rather have a discussion about it and get their opinion. And for me, the only way that we can change, maybe a comment into a discussion is create a platform for conversation, right?
Yeah,
and so what we do, I guess simply what we do is we have check-ins and check-ups. So the first week we could bring in all of our guys and we have check-ins. And we find out what they're all about. We find out what's going on at home, what makes them tick. And then every 4 weeks, we bring in every guy. It takes 3 days from essentially 10 to 5 every day. But we meet with our guys all the time, and we talk to them. After practice, I need to be better at this, but after practice, I try to reach out to 3 of our guys. And one that maybe needs to be picked up, and one that needs to be celebrated, and one that, you got to do better at this type of thing. So by the end of the month, I either talk to every guy through a text message or through personal communication or through what we call the check-ins. So I think the first step is to have a platform there, to have the opportunity for conversation, and then you can go from there and you can build from there. Every guy's different. Some guys are tough to break that shell and really find out who they are, and some guys are incredibly easy. And so it's just a process. But I think it boils down to, you're going to hear me say it a lot, but TLC, man, it boils down to trust. If they trust you, they're going to love you. If they love you, they're going to communicate with you. And so we try to live that every day.
That's awesome. So your monthly meeting, can you take us through what one of those would look like, in terms of, and I know the conversation, so there's a back and forth, and you mentioned a little bit, but, what's the goal of it, and what are you hoping to accomplish, and then how do the guys respond?
Yeah, it's you see progress, right? And progress is process. So every meeting kind of evolves into the next meeting. A little bit of it revolves around what we're doing on the baseball field, our evaluation, how development is happening, what they need personally, and then what we're seeing. But a lot of it has to do with how you doing, man. Like how is the academics going? How's home going? How's your battalion leader? If you're a battalion leader, how is your group? What's going on within your group? It's more of a conversation, and like I said, it really forces the coaches to be a part of their life, to give a platform or an opportunity for the player to have the chance to say what he or she wants, right? And it's a process, because the first check-in is pretty one-sided. A lot of the guys, unless they've been around, don't really know what it's all about. By the second or third one, they're open. They're telling us things that are going on. And they also know that they don't have to wait for a check-in or a check-up to come and talk to us, but they know it's coming, and they know that it's their opportunity. So you just see a level of comfortability that kind of progresses through each check-in.
Awesome. That's cool. So let's jump over to the baseball side.
Okay.
So you are big on the development side. What does the development mean to you?
Oh, loaded question. Well, okay, I've never really. Let's start from this. So I've never really coached at a place that was transfer driven. Does that make sense? So I've never had the opportunity to not develop, right? So we've always had to develop young guys into being players, whether that was from the JUCO level, the Division II level, the mid-major Division I, Power 5, KU. Skip believes in developing freshmen. Once again, probably my biggest influencer of my career is that guy, and he taught me from an early age, if you can develop your guys, you can sustain success, right? I think that you get in trouble sometimes when you get too many transfers, and that's not enough at all about programs to bring in transfers.
Sure.
I get it.
Sure.
That some programs it's easier to do that, right? And that's what they have to do. And hats off to them. For us, we bring in freshmen and we develop them. We played 270 plus innings this fall. We believe in game time experience, and essentially they played half a season already. So they're really not freshmen at this point. But what is development, man? It's taking a guy who has some type of tools, right?
Yeah.
Everybody on your team has some type of tools, whatever it is.
Right.
And it's expanding on those tools and getting him to play at a high level with those tools. And whatever that level is, it's going to be specific to that person, right? I think that sometimes as coaches we get in trouble because we all expect every player to play at this certain level, right? And we put this bar on everybody. Well, we're more individualists. We think in a hyper focused thought process on development. Okay, so option A or player A and player B, their ceilings, their levels are going to be completely different. But if we can get to the top of their levels on each of those players, then we got a chance to be really good as a program, as a team. So we think very individualistic, and one of those ways is we have our U programs for each position and each player specifically. So we have a pitcher's U program, and then we have a hitter's U program that's designed an individual development and what their needs are. And what the players do is they fill out these programs, they turn them in each week, and then they start over. And there's a process and a progress to that where they see charts and flow charts that track their data and track their stuff that they're doing each week. And then they get to look at it and then review and adjust for the next week. So that basically takes us through the fall of U programs, of what guys need. For us at the 4-year level, we got 25-year-old seniors, right, that are redshirt seniors. That guy's need is completely different than a 17-year-old freshman that just needs to figure out how to play some catch, you know? So that's what we try to identify as coaches really quickly. Maybe starts in the recruiting process. And then we develop it and we put it into play when they get here on campus.
Nice. So when you look at a guy, and this is this guy's strength, but he thinks that his strength is that. You know, obviously with your experience and being around, you're gonna probably know better. You know, but have you had a situation where a player said, you know what, Coach, I don't know. You know, I really want to focus on this. You know, how does that conversation go?
There's a group of people, and I mentioned it earlier, called the baseball gods.
Yeah.
And the game of baseball will let the players know what they can or can't do.
Yeah.
I try to impress upon our coaches and then myself that who are we to say that somebody can't do something? The game will do it itself. If we get out of the way, most of the answers will come to the players themselves. You know, we have a theory. We want to find out what they can do before we tell them that we can't. Right? We try to just shut up. You know, we try to just get out of the way.
Yeah.
And we really live or die on show us what you can do before we tell you can't. And a lot of the times we find out more information than we knew before. And really we could speed up. We talk about the development process. We could speed that up just by watching them. Maybe they don't need to do rundowns and cuts and relays and bunt coverages and minute things because they already know how to do it. Right. You know, I was thinking about this the other day, kind of side skirting this, but like Midwestern players, sometimes they get a knock because they're not flashy. They can't or they don't make the plus play. But you know what the Midwest coaches do a really good job of is teaching the fundamentals. They teach the very basic parts of the game. And if we just get out of the way and we watch those kids play, they know how to play the game. And they know how to play it at an elementary, rudimentary, like foundational level. And that's awesome. we don't have to teach that. And for us, we can go, okay, now push it. See, we have a Freedom Friday practice where guys can't make routine plays, right? And if we do, we stop the whole practice and we boo them, right? We want them to push the boundaries of what they do. We want them to push what they're comfortable with. Our practices on Monday are called Money Monday, and that's all of our routine plays. That's all of the things that we do to win a game on Mondays. And what you see over the course of 6 to 8 weeks of team practice in the fall is that our Freedom Fridays push our Money Mondays, because we're allowing development to happen within the practice, right? Nice. And we're giving them freedom to make mistakes. We're encouraging them to really push the boundaries of what they're comfortable with, because a lot of the kids that we get are really, really well taught at their high schools or their club coaches or the facilities they go to on just the basic core fundamentals of playing this game and what they need to do to be successful. And so for the most part, we don't have to do that. Yeah. And so we just encourage it. We encourage them to push and to really see how far they can go, especially in the fall.
Very cool. So can you take us through, you touched on the Monday and the Friday, but can you take us through what a typical week would look like during the fall?
Yep. And so let's start with the first week. What we have battalion lit practice week, where the battalion leaders, so the first year it was a little awkward because nobody knew what we were doing, right? And so this year was awesome to watch. And our offices are right at the field. So the coaches, I was like, don't talk to them, don't do anything, set the field up, then let the battalion leaders go. Let's see how they do this thing. And so they took over for the first week, and they implemented everything. So our stretch, our run, the prayer before practice, they did everything. They implemented it all. So here's what a week looks like for us. It's Monday, Monday. I guess I'll just break down what the day looks like for us too. Is
that'd be great.
We view ourselves as professors, as teachers. So we want to have office hours. I ask our coaches to have office hours, and simply what that is that we're there. We're there from 8:30 to 2:30, and if anybody needs us, they can come to our quote unquote office, which is the field. They want us to throw BP. They want us to hit ground balls. They want us to just work with them personally. We are there for them. It's just like a professor in their office hours. They're there for our students. We're there for our athletes, right? So that's 8:30 to 2:30. Open field is 2:30 to 3. And then practice team meeting starts at 3. And then we stretch, run, throw, do our dynamic warm-up, all of that stuff from 3 to 3:30. And then team practice starts. 3:30, we go to about 5:20. And then we go to dinner and we go to lift on Tuesday. We go lift Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday morning. Okay? So that's kind of the shell of what our practice is.
Nice.
Monday, Monday, mention that, what that's all about. That's all our routine plays. That's everything that we need to do to win a game, but at a high pace. So we call it a push, where we don't stop. We don't stop practice ever for anything. Every coach has a practice plan on them. If a guy makes a mistake, we don't stop practice to correct. We write it down on our practice schedule, and then we move on. So
nice.
We just continue the development process at a high level. We want to practice at an extremely high pace, where we're creating mistakes, where we're making guys fail, right? We want them to do that in practice. We want them to learn what that's like. So that's Monday, Monday. Every practice is at that tempo, is at that pace, and we go. Like I said, we don't stop. Then we get to Tuesday, 2 for Tuesday. It's essentially our mentality is a push. Everything is a double out of the box. So we're running out. We're going hard. We're pushing. We want our defense to understand how to play at that tempo. So when we play somebody that doesn't play like that, the game is slow. The game is extremely slow. And so we can play faster. And that's normal to us. So honestly, it takes new guys a week to 2 weeks to get comfortable with how fast we go and how fast we want to play the game. And really, 2 for Tuesday is all about that. Going first to third, taking the next bag, scoring on an easy single. It's just the tempo of the game that we want to play. What happens is, so that's an offensive mindset, but it influences our defense. So our defense now also plays at that pace.
Yeah.
And they learn that, like, there's no crow hops anymore. There's what we call a pro step. There's a turn and throw instead of just like get, shuffle, throw. We just eliminate a lot of the nuances, like this what we call time wasters. We just take those out and we simplify everything. And we TLC on the field. We trust, we love, and we communicate. So if you came to a practice, it looks like a mess. It looks like a scramble, guys moving everywhere. But if you're there for a few days, a few weeks, it starts to look like a coordinated mess, right? Like it looks like it's supposed to happen that way. So that's 2 for Tuesday, and then Winning Wednesday is all about winning. Everything that we do in the practice plan is it's either we're driving in that winning run or we're stopping that winning run. We're making a winning play. We're making a diving catch. We're doing something about winning that day. So it'll be competition, skills based, that kind of thing. And then remind you that we don't stop practice ever, right? So if there's a mistake or an adjustment or correction, we write it on our practice plans. So when we get to Thursday, we have Throwback Thursday. And so we cover all of the adjustments, mistakes, corrections that we made Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on Thursday. So now we're not stopping practice for the entire week. We slow it down just a little bit on Thursday and make our corrections with each individual guy. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So that's our Thursday. And then, so look, practice can flat out suck sometimes, right? They can get long and they can get monotonous. And so we try to eliminate a lot of that. And really during the course of a fall, it could become a long fall. And we want our guys at high energy, going crazy every day at practice. We want them flying around the park. Well, how are you going to motivate an 18-year-old kid to do that every day? For us, it's about giving back and giving them something to look forward to. The best way to do that for us is have Freedom Friday. And Freedom Friday, our guys can wear whatever they want. They don't have to wear team-issued gear. They can, hell, I saw a full football uniform this fall. I saw a Canadian tuxedo, and these were jorts. So he took some lumps that day, but hey, it's their day. They get to decide what we're doing at practice, how we're doing it, what kind of things we're going to do during that practice time. They look forward to it. And really, when you can get a group of guys to look forward to a Friday practice, you know that you're going to probably have a chance to have a productive week of Monday through Thursday because we can ask more of them. The only rule that we have on Friday, and I mentioned this, is that we can't make routine plays. If you get a Sunday hop at third base and you just flip it over to first, then we stop practice, right? And we turn the music off. That's the other thing. Music's blaring, music's going. They play whatever they want. It can get a little crazy at times, but we stop practice and the whole team boos that guy, right? And so the first time it happens, everybody starts laughing and it's a good time. But the point of it is that we want our guys to push. We want our guys to break the barriers of what they feel comfortable doing. And really it makes them better. It really expands what their comfort zone is, and it wraps up a good week. And so that's what our weeks look like. kind of the shell of what we do in the fall.
That's awesome. And, I want to talk a little bit about Thursday, the day where you addressed everything. So there's a mistake that happens on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you addressed it on Thursday. And I love that. So can you take us through what a Thursday would look like? Are you taking, a guy booting a ball or a miscommunication on fly ball? I mean, is that the type of stuff you're taking into consideration? Or, what would be an example? What would Thursday look like?
Yeah. So if it's more of an individual skills-based issue, then we work with that player individually, right? But if it's more of a team-based, maybe our outfielders aren't getting great reads, then we'll put that into the practice plan of, all right, we're gonna set up our machine to do outfield reads, right? And so we'll just our student manager will spend his 20-25 minutes just shooting these guys fly ball reads, right? Yeah. And identify, okay, we're not getting this ball in 4.7 seconds, right? Which is a normal time that we want to get the ball in. So we will just focus on that in that hyper skilled set in the individual position. So if our infielders, we play defense a little bit different. We play in a pull shift. So a lot of the guys got to get comfortable with that and where they're going, how to route their ball and what lanes they need to be in, what feeds they need to give to. So if we're not given the right feed from the right angles and if we're not in the 56 hole or exactly where we want to be, maybe shifted over the bag, freedom bag, like our third basemen are responsible for a lot. They basically direct the left side of our infield. And when we play the pull shift for a left-hander, we put our third baseman on an island over there. So they're responsible for covering a lot. So those are the type of things that if we make a mistake on, or we want another guy to play third, right? On Fridays, we also let our guys play different positions, and we actually encourage it. We demand it. So we can be versed in a lot of different things. So on Thursdays, we just go back and we try to cover those nuances. So like if our catchers aren't throwing to the right spots or need development work, right? A lot of the times what we'll do is our assistant is a catching guy, I have an infield guy, and I have a pitching guy. And so they'll take their small groups and they'll go and work individually. So sometimes on the field, there may not be anything going on, but we have individual work throughout the practice on a Thursday because maybe we're not reading our 4-hop drill well or our bucket drill or, our catchers need to block and recover or, they essentially cover all of our bunts. So if we're working on the short game, they're covering the bunts, they're executing plays doing that. It could be a wide variety of things. Yeah. It could be something that you've never seen before. Like I said, we play 270 plus innings. There were things I've never seen before. And I'm in my 14th year of coaching. Like the game's crazy, so we can address those things, on Thursday, and we don't have to stop practice, or we don't have to stop scrimmage, right?
Yeah, no, that's awesome. I love it because a lot of time gets wasted when you can just address things before or after, or in your case on Thursday, which I love.
Yeah, well, if the shortstop makes a mistake, it's not the right fielder's fault, right? And so you talk about development; it goes all back to development. Yeah. If we're taking time away from somebody that has nothing to do with whatever you're talking about, then we're taking time away from their development, and that's not happening.
Yeah, you had mentioned some of the metrics you guys are focused on. What are these other metrics that you guys are looking at?
Doubles. How many doubles can we get? And we have a whiteboard that we take with us all over the place to any game that we play, and it's called the Medita board. And it's there's like 8 to 10 categories on it, but one of the staple categories is a hustle double. And that's any time that we can create just a normal single into a double, which we call a push offense. You know what? Sometimes we're going to get thrown out, and sometimes we're going to do things that look stupid. But more often than not, we're going to do things that win games. And we're going to push, and we're going to create havoc, and ultimately we're going to create mistakes by being aggressive. And it's all wrapped around the double. It's all wrapped around 2. So it's so important we named it day after, right? For two for Tuesday. If we're just thinking singles or home runs, we're in trouble. We can't steal first. We got to get to second. We got to figure out how to get to third on just a routine play, and then the easy scoring from second, right? So that's got to be key number 1. On the defensive side, we have to stop it, right? And singles won't hurt us. We play in the pull shift to basically defend the double. And our outfield plays in the gaps, on the opposite gaps, and just the numbers tell you that most of the time it's oppo gap and then pull side, like a pull side swing, right? So our infielders will shift pull side, and our outfielders will be in oppo gaps. We play defense a little bit different in the outfield. Usually you think that like your center fielder is your director. For us, we think more of our right fielder is our director. He stays pretty much put, and then everybody adjusts off him. The reason for that is because the majority of hitters that we see are right-handed. And so the oppo flare gap, we set the right fielder basically in it, and then let everybody adjust off of it. And so it all wraps around 2, man. It all wraps around the double. Can we hit them, and can we defend them?
Yeah. Wow, Coach. I'm just looking down at the clock, and we're already approaching the hour mark. So I got a lot more I'd love to get into. Man, I would love to ask you, but I know you're a busy guy. I got some stuff going on, with my daughter's school. But let's kind of wrap up with a few things, and hopefully I can get you back on another time. But let's just kind of wrap up with what are some of the best resources that help you develop as a coach and as a person?
Yeah, well, I'd be remiss if I didn't, talk about my family. And my wife is incredibly supportive of what I do, and without her, I'd be absolutely nothing. So, and then my extended family, my uncles, everybody's been involved in athletics in my family, and so I knew that was, of course. So they've been hugely influential on me. Obviously, Coach Price, I can't thank him enough. It's somebody that I lean on constantly. And I'm going to leave people out, and they can call me out on Twitter or whatever, and that's fine. But I like Twitter. I'm probably on it too much, but man, I've learned a lot just from watching, just from talking and listening to other coaches and seeing what they're doing. I heard somebody say the other day that I think a lot of young coaches get in trouble or have a hard time developing in this game because they're always saying, all right, this is what I'm not going to do instead of what I'm going to do, right? Yeah. And these are the things that I like, and I'm going to implement this. And they're really focused on, I don't like that, I'm not going to do this. Right. I think that Twitter can get into that game a little bit too much, and I try to stay away from that. But there's so many resources out there. There's so many good podcasts. I think that I'm a huge supporter of the ABCA, what Jeremy Schieninger did with his podcast, and I just saw that they're coming back out. Nice. There's so many things out there. If you just give yourself an opportunity to listen and watch, for me, probably shut up a little bit more. I think that we can get better as coaches. But here's what I think it boils down to. I think the players have taught me more in my career than anybody.
Yeah.
Those guys have provided me with an opportunity to, one, be a coach, but learn from them and communicate with them. And, it boils back down to TLC, man. And to trust and to love and communicate. If we could do those three things at a high level, we could do some great things.
Very cool. So if you were me and you were interviewing yourself, what would you have asked yourself that I didn't ask?
I don't know. I probably have to answer that on if we do this podcast again. We don't talk as a team after games, right? We give ourselves a 24-hour rule, and this is probably one of those where I need a 24-hour rule just to think about it, kind of digest it and go from there. But I don't know, man. I think you do a great job. I think the questions were awesome. I just enjoyed the entire experience.
Well, Coach, I really appreciate your time. And again, I would love to have you on again. I felt like we kind of just got started, but I really do appreciate your time and looking forward to doing this again.
Okay. Thanks. I thank you very much. Take care.